Hello everyone, it's Janki and welcome back to my channel. And guess what I present to you today? So today I'll be presenting a mini bookshelf tour. I don't have abundant books. I have a limited number of physical books because I tend to read more ebooks. So without any further ado, I think we should just get into the books that I own. Welcome. So this part of my bookshelf contains books from every genre. This is the miscellaneous bookshelf. I usually organize my books according to the genre, but this is a blend of every genre. Next, we have half of this is thriller and this half of it is historical fiction. And then we have this section which contains mostly fantasy series. I mean all fantasy series. So our first book is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It's a fiction and a very disturbing one at that. The next book with us is Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I don't even know why did I buy this book. Just a cover pick, I guess. Next up we have The Treatment by C.L. Taylor, a young adult thriller. Next up we have 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I've heard it's a classic and I'm yet to read it. Next up we have A Season for the Dead by David Hewson. I haven't read it yet, but for a video I just read the first chapter of it and it's set in Rome. Next we have The Poppy War by Arif Kwong. This is one of my favorite fantasy books till date. Next we have Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is a science fiction thriller. I just wanted to get into science fiction and so I purchased this. Our next book is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, the same author, and bought it for the same reason. Just wanted to venture into science fiction. Our next book is Hunted by the Sky by Tanaz Bathena, and this is the most gorgeous book cover I have. And this is a fantasy, Asian-inspired fantasy. The next up we have The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This is one of the spin-off series of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, and this is the first book in the Eldest Courses series. Next up we have The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. This book came in one of my book boxes and this also has a beautiful cover. I haven't read it yet, but I plan to read it very soon. Our next book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book I used for my 5-step predictions video and I think this is a book that I'm going to love. I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to soon. Next we have A Chunky Boy, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series. Our next book is Rebel Spy by Veronica Rossi, a spy-based historical fiction. Our last book on this shelf is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is a historical fiction which has cameos from Greek gods, which makes it a little different from other historical fictions. Coming to our thriller plus historical fiction shelf, our next book is The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. And Anthony Horowitz, I picked up this book of his after reading The Magpie Murders, which, by the way, both of which are amazing. The next book is I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. This is, as you can imagine, a thriller and I absolutely don't remember anything about it. Next we have Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane, a very unusual and different thriller which I personally liked. Next we have the Truly Devious series thriller. The first book is Truly Devious, the second is The Vanishing Stair, the third is The Hand on the Wall, all by Maureen Johnson. So this series has a school setting which is absolutely amazing to read about. The next book we have is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, one of my favorite thrillers. Next we have Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, and I'm sure you must know who Gillian Flynn is. If you haven't read her book, you must have seen the movie adapted from her book, which is Gone Girl. Next we have The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter, again a thriller. Next we have What Alice Knew by T.A. Cotterill, and I honestly don't remember what it's about. Next we have What Alice Knew by T.A. Cotterill, and I honestly don't remember what it's about. Next we have One of Us is Next. It is the second book in One of Us is Lying series, although it could be read as a standalone as well. So yes, I have few books that are missing. Missing in the sense that I've lent it to my friends, so they are not here. For example, the first book in this series. And the next book that I have is Hamlet, which honestly I tried reading but gave up halfway through. The next book we have is A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and I don't even have to tell you about this book. The next book we have is Alternative Realities, a non-fiction, and why did I read it? Next up we have A Gentleman in Moscow by AMOR. It's a historical fiction set in Russia. Next we have a special appearance of a fantasy book amidst historical fictions, The Story of Silence by Alex Myers. I haven't read this yet. Next book is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, the classic beginner's book for historical fiction. Next up we have The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. Then we have two books by Khalid Hosseini, The Kite Runner and The Mountains Echoed. Both of these are historical fictions. Both of them 4 stars for me. Next we have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, a World War II based historical fiction. A highly acclaimed book, but a book that I didn't like. So next we have Kristen Hanna's books, my favorite historical fiction author. The first one is The Nightingale, a World War II based historical fiction. Second is The Great Alone, a domestic fiction set in Alaska. And the third one is True Colors, which is again a historical fiction. Our last book on this shelf is The Help by KATHRYN. Next we have The Help by KATHRYN Stockett, which is a historical fiction, and I absolutely loved it. This is the third, I guess? Yes. So this is the third series in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, which is the Dark Artificer series. We have the first book, which is Lady Midnight, the second book which is Lord of Shadows, and the third book which is Queen of Air and Darkness, all by Cassandra Clare. And I think by far this is her best series. Next we have the first series in the Shadowhunters Chronicle, which is the Mortal Instrument series. The first book is City of Bones, the second book is City of Ashes, the third is City of Glass. The fourth book is City of Fallen Angels, the fifth one is City of Lost Souls, and the last is City of Heavenly Fire. The next series we have is the second series in the Shadowhunters world, which is the Infernal Devices series. First book being Clockwork Angel, then Clockwork Prince, and then Clockwork Princess. The next series we have here is Three Dark Crowns series, and this is a very unheard of and a very underrated fantasy series, and which I highly recommend. So the first book goes Three Dark Crowns, then Two Dark Reigns, Five Dark Fates, and lastly One Dark Throne, and these all are by Kentar Blake. And the last two books on the shelf, which also happens to be my favorite series, which is Six of Crows duology, which consists of Six of Crows and Cricket Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. And by the way, if you haven't seen the Netflix show yet, please go and watch Shadow and Bone. So those are all the books that I have, and thank you for watching and see you next time.